Exposed. When my husband's plot to take half my fortune backfired, I revealed an amazing truth. Life in Maplewood was always sweet for Sarah. As the heart and soul behind Sweet Harmony, her quaint bakery, the smell of cinnamon and vanilla filled the air, mixing with laughter from her two daughters, Emily and Grace. But the joy of kneading dough was about to be overshadowed by something sinister lurking in the shadows. Her husband, Mark, a once beloved partner, had spun a web of deceit that not only threatened her livelihood, but also put her daughters' futures at risk. Everything started simply enough. Sarah was deep into preparations for the Maplewood Harvest Festival, the town's annual celebration of hard work and community spirit. She loved this time of year. It filled her with hope and dreams of bringing her local community together. But when she stumbled upon those bank statements, her heart shattered into a million pieces. There was no denying it. Mark had been hiding crippling debts, siphoning off her bakery's profits to bail out his failing venture. The man she had trusted, the father of her children, was wrestling her dreams out from under her. How could he betray her like this? As tears welled in her eyes, Sarah felt the weight of betrayal pressing down, choking her breath. How would she protect Emily and Grace from this chaos? Each financial commitment she had hoped to achieve, college funds, family vacations, suddenly felt like a cruel joke. Yet amidst the agony, luck would soon guide her hand. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Rather than wallow in despair, Sarah turned to social media, a platform she had only used to promote Sweet Harmony. With raw honesty, she shared her story, inviting others to join in. Her post called out Mark not just for his betrayal, but also highlighted the silent struggles many local entrepreneurs faced. In minutes, shares multiplied. Her phone pinged with supportive comments and stories of shared hardships, echoing the voice of unity that this quaint town was known for. Hope kindled like a fire within her. Sarah realized she was not alone. As the anticipation of the Harvest Festival grew, so did the weight of her secret. How was she to navigate such betrayal while upholding the narrative of family? Facing a moral dilemma, the question lingered: should she keep her family intact or honor her dignity? As the town hall meeting neared, adrenaline coursed through her veins. Tonight was critical. The community had rallied, and they all wanted to hear her truth. Would she stand strong enough to speak? The thought both exhilarated and terrified her. Just when it felt like the darkness would consume her, the light of unexpected community support flickered on the horizon. Could this be the moment to reclaim not only her dignity but a future for her daughters? With the meeting looming, her heart raced. What would she choose to reveal? As the doors of the town hall swung open, she took a deep breath. The unresolved question loomed large. Would she find the courage to share her story, or would betrayal fracture her family forever? The town hall buzzed with energy, a vibrant mix of townsfolk eager to show their support and share in Sarah's journey. She stood just inside the doorway, her hands clammy and her heart beating like a drum. A long table sat at the front, and behind it were the familiar faces of neighbors and friends, those who had watched her rise and thrive with Sweet Harmony. They believed in her. They believed in Maplewood. Yet, they didn't know the storm she had been weathering. Taking a deep breath, Sarah stepped forward, feeling the weight of their eyes. The smell of fresh flowers from the community center filled her lungs, grounding her momentarily. She could almost hear the laughter of Emily and Grace, reminding her of the reasons she had to be brave. Tonight, her truth could either shatter her world further or possibly mend it. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice steady but soft as she looked around the room. She noticed her friend Lisa nodding encouragingly, and it steadied her resolve. "I'm here to talk about something difficult. Something that has been eating away at me for far too long." The murmurs quieted. She recalled that fateful day when she found Mark's hidden debts, the numbers staring back at her like dark storm clouds ready to burst. This was the moment she decided to share her truth, to lay bare the core of her heartbreak before the people she loved. "I found out that Mark wasn't the man I thought he was," she confessed, her voice wavering slightly. "He has been taking from our family our future to cover his failing business. I've spent sleepless nights trying to figure out how to protect my daughters and our life." Gasps spread across the crowd, and she saw hands grasping each other protectively. It was not just her story, but a shared pursuit of healing. "It's hard to believe that the person I married, someone I trusted with all my heart, would betray me in such a profound way." Tears brimmed in her eyes. "But I can't let this define who I am. I refuse to let it define my daughters or my bakery." The response was immediate, a wave of support thrumming through the room. She felt strength emerging from within her, fueled by the love and resilience she witnessed in those faces. She shared more of her journey, her dreams mingling with her anguish, and how the community's response had inspired her to begin anew. As she wrapped up her statement, a courageous voice called from the back. "We stand with you, Sarah." It was Sam, a fellow business owner who used to run the flower shop down the street. "You've always been there for us, and now we'll be there for you." Cheers erupted, igniting a palpable energy in the hall. One by one, families shared their own stories of obstacles and triumphs. The power of collective experience flooded the room, where the spirit of Maplewood shone like twinkling lights, embracing everyone in a warm, supportive hug. When the meeting ended, Sarah felt lighter, like a weight was finally lifted. She had taken a step into vulnerability, and the community had responded with love. But as she exited the hall, she spotted a lone figure at the edge of the crowd. Mark stood there, a shadow of his former self, looking lost and empty. His eyes met hers, desperation flashing momentarily before he dropped his gaze to the ground. The moment churned in her gut. She had stood up for herself, but the reality of their life together loomed ahead, still unresolved. With her heart pounding, she wondered, would she be able to confront him about how he had shattered her trust and what that meant for their family going forward? As their eyes locked once more, an uneasy silence settled between them. What would she say next? The silence stretched, each tick of the clock echoing in her mind. Sarah felt like she was standing in quicksand, as if the ground beneath her would pull her down into uncertainty. Mark's eyes were downcast, and shame washed over her. She had poured her heart out tonight, and yet here he stood, a reminder that their story was far from over. "Why are you here, Mark?" Her voice broke the stillness, wavering with both fear and anger. She wanted answers, but the words came out harsher than intended. Mark hesitated, his shoulders slumping further under the weight of her gaze. I wanted to understand. I couldn't just leave like that." His voice was broken, like glass shards on the floor. "You want understanding?" she asked, incredulity rising in her chest. "You didn't understand when you took out all those loans? When you lied to me about our finances? Did you ever think of that?" Each word felt like a punch, releasing frustration she'd held back for too long. The crowd began to filter out of the hall, their happy chatter ringing in Sarah's ears. But in this pocket of silence, it was just the two of them. The world had faded away. "I never meant to hurt you," he replied, desperation lining his features. "I just didn't know how to tell you. I was scared. I thought I could fix it." "Fix it?" She almost laughed, the sound bitter. "You think lying was a way to fix it? You think keeping me in the dark was the solution? I deserve better than that, Mark." His eyes flickered with guilt. I thought if I could just get a break, I could sort everything out. I wanted to protect you, protect the girls." She could feel the tears threatening to spill over again. "Protect me? You've put us in danger. Our whole life, our future. And for what? Your pride?" A tense silence fell again, and she could almost feel his hesitation hanging in the air. The words had struck a nerve, and as much as she hated it, she couldn't help but feel a flicker of sympathy for the man she once loved. "Sarah," he finally whispered, "I'm sorry. I messed up. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know I never wanted to ruin us." "Then why didn't you come to me? I would have shared the burden, We could have figured this out together. The hurt flooded her voice, wrapping it in pain. I thought you would leave, he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. You have every reason to. I didn't want to lose you, and in trying to save my pride, I lost everything. God, I've lost you. The ache in her chest deepened. The man before her was different from the one she had married. He looked beaten, stripped of the confidence that once drew her to him. But was he truly sorry? Would it matter? Maybe you need to lose me, she said, her voice steady yet trembling. Maybe that's the only way for you to learn how serious this is. It felt like a breaking point, the words hard to say, yet freeing at the same time. Mark looked like she'd slapped him. I can change, I swear. I can fight for our family. Just give me a chance. The truth pounded in her heart. If she didn't set boundaries now, they would be lost forever. But could she really walk away from the life they had built together? Could she turn her back on the man, on the father of their children, even if he had betrayed her? As she grappled with the enormity of it all, she had to choose. Would she fight for them, or fight against the trust that had been shattered? Mark. She sighed, her heart torn. What future lay ahead? The night was still young, but Sarah felt as if everything was hanging in the balance. She had to decide how far she was willing to go for the sake of their family, and if the love that once flourished was worth the battle that lay ahead. With each moment, the weight of the choice pressed down heavily, and the next words she spoke would chart the course for all their tomorrows. Would they be a second chance or the final goodbye? Sarah's heart thudded in her chest, loud enough that she feared Mark could hear it too. The weight of his gaze was like a heavy blanket, suffocating yet strangely familiar. The memories of laughter and love flickered at the edges of her mind, battling against the realism of the moment. Tell me, she finally said, her voice a calm island amid the storm of her emotions. What do you expect from me right now? Just saying you're sorry won't fix anything. I know. His voice cracked again, like he was struggling under the burden of his own choices. I didn't think you'd be angry about the finances. I thought you'd understand, that you'd rally with me. Anger flared within her, sharp and sudden. Understand? Rally? Is that how little you think of me? I am not your teammate in a game of deceit, Mark. I needed you to be my partner, honest and persistent. He seemed to flinch at her words, invoking a flicker of regret in his eyes. I see that now. I thought. He stumbled, then took a deep breath. I thought I could handle things on my own. I didn't want to drag you down. Drag me down? The bitterness in her voice felt like a bitter pill she couldn't swallow. You've already dragged us all the way down, and we're drowning. She steadied herself, no longer willing to allow him to dictate her emotional state. You need to understand what this has done to our trust. It's not just about finances, it's about us. His face contorted, as if he was struggling to understand the depth of her feelings. I get that I messed up. But can't we start over? For the kids? The mention of their children struck a chord deep within her, twisting her insides. They were the light and the foundation of her life, and she couldn't bear the thought of them growing up in a fractured home. Starting over. It sounds easy, doesn't it? She said softly, evoking a sigh that battled to escape her lips. But it's complicated. It's not just about erasing the past. Mark stepped closer, the desperation in his gestures stark against the backdrop of the quiet, empty hall. I know it's not easy. But I can prove it to you. I can change, Sarah. Bittersweet memories flooded her mind, moments of joy, their laughter blending with their little girl's smiles. For every dark moment, there had also been brightness. Their love had once felt so uncomplicated. But could she trust him to bring that back after everything that had happened? Change doesn't happen overnight. Trust is earned brick by brick. Her heart raced as vulnerability surged within. What will you do differently, Mark? What can you offer me to believe in you again? I'll go to therapy. I'll work overtime if I have to. I'll face my fears about money, even if it means digging deep into the mess I made. His sincerity pierced through her defenses, shimmering just a little light into her darkening doubts. Fingers trembling, she brushed away a tear that slipped down her cheek. And if you fall again? If you break that trust again? I don't know, he answered truthfully, his voice faltering. But I need you to know how hard I'll fight to keep from failing. And there it was, A flicker of hope surged through her. It clashed against the darkness, igniting a flame that warned her to be cautious, yet ignited a long-forgotten desire. Could she afford to let herself hope again? Maybe we can start with honesty, she said, testing the waters of her own willingness. But I need you to share openly every fear, every mistake. No secrets. The tension shifted, and for the first time in a long while, both of them felt the weight of truth connecting them. Suddenly, from the crowd spilling into the night outside, laughter echoed, a cruel reminder of normalcy while they stood in chaos. "Sarah," Mark said, his voice softer now, laying bare his heart like a patient before her. "I promise I want to fight for us." The words lingered in the air, a precarious promise. And as Sarah met his gaze, shadowed by the fears of what tomorrow might hold, she realized that their journey was only beginning. Would they find their way back into each other's arms, or would the bond they cherished prove too fragile to mend? In that moment of liminality, with uncertainty looming ahead, Sarah breathed in deeply, knowing that the path to healing would involve risks. But would the consequences be worth it? As the past chased them, would they stand side by side, or would the shadows of their history tear them apart? Sarah's hand trembled as she wiped away the last remnants of her tears. The laughter from outside seemed like a mockery, a world away from the heaviness that enveloped her and Mark. Could they really bridge the distance that seemed to stretch infinitely between them? She looked at him again. Beneath his uncertain expression, there was a glimmer of determination. "Let us start small," she offered, her voice steadier. "How about we agree to check in with each other each week? Just about how we're feeling. No judgment." Mark nodded, a shadow of relief crossing his face. "That's fair. I can do that." He paused, his brow furrowing. "But I want to do more. I want us to go deeper than that. Let us tackle this together." The idea resonated, wrapping around her like a warm hug in a frigid time. "Together," she whispered, allowing the weight of the word to settle between them. "Exactly," he said, taking a step closer. "We've been through so much, and, well, I don't want to lose you." Her heart broke open a little more with those words. "I don't want to lose you either." There it was, an honesty, so fragile yet powerful, hanging in the air. But even as hope flickered, doubt crept back in. Would this be enough? Could they really build back what was lost? Before she could voice her fears, Mark reached out, taking her hand in his. His grip was firm and steady. "I think we should also involve a third party, maybe a financial advisor or a counselor. Someone who can help guide us through the mess I made." The suggestion struck her like a bolt of lightning. "You mean, admit that we need help?" "Why not?" he replied, his eyes searching hers for understanding. "The past few months proved we can't do it alone. I can't keep putting it all on you. I messed up, and I want to fix this." Sarah's chest tightened with the weight of his admission. It was a big step, revealing both his vulnerability and willingness to change. "I guess involving someone else could help, but it would mean facing everything publicly. Will you be ready for that?" "I need to be." "We both do." The flicker of hope surged hotter again, but darker thoughts gnawed at the edges of her heart. And what if it doesn't change? What if we crash and burn? Then we know we truly gave it our all. It would hurt, but at least we know we didn't shy away from trying. Isn't that what love is about? She pressed her lips together, trying to suppress a smile. Mark's words were simple yet profound, and deep down, she recognized their truth. "Okay, look, let us commit to this. The check-ins, the counselor. And we'll see where that takes us." They held each other's gaze for a moment, a newfound understanding resting between them. Yet, as the prospect of a hopeful future danced in her head, fear loomed ever closer. What if we end up regretting this down the line? "Regret won't matter if we're honest and open with each other," Mark said softly, as if testing the air between them. Sarah took a deep breath, her heart swelling with mixed emotions. Could trust really be rebuilt brick by brick? And just as she was about to respond, a loud crash echoed from outside, a shattering reminder of their reality. "Do you hear that?" she asked, eyes wide with sudden concern. Mark's brow furrowed, and without another word, they both moved toward the door to peek outside. The scene that greeted them was chaotic, a shocking revelation that sent adrenaline coursing through her veins. Sarah's heart raced as she registered the crowd's worried faces, followed by the shocking sight that unfolded before them. Was that an accident? She whispered, her voice barely above a whisper. Mark grabbed her hand tighter, a sense of urgency building between them. As they stepped outside, their world turned upside down, their promise to rebuild instantly overshadowed by the uncertainty rushing in. Would this external chaos threaten their fragile commitment? She held on to Mark, caught between the hope of their earlier conversation and the fear that now clawed at her heart. What awaited them in the chaos? And how would they navigate this new twist in their already tumultuous journey? The noise of the crowd swelled around Sarah and Mark, mixing with the chaos of sirens in the distance. The air was thick with urgency and fear, each face revealing a story of its own. Mark squeezed her hand tighter, grounding her amidst the turmoil. "Stay close," he murmured, as they stepped fully out into the fray. It felt like a scene from a movie, but this was their reality, and every heartbeat pulsed with a dread that threatened to consume her. A car lay crumpled against a lamppost, smoke billowing from its hood. The driver, a man in his 30s, stumbled out, his face pale and shocked. Nearby, people shouted for help, and Sarah saw a woman kneeling beside a child who had fallen, fear painting her features. The frenzy around them was infectious, pulling at Sarah's heart in ways she hadn't expected. "Should we go help?" Sarah asked, her stomach twisting into knots. Mark looked at her, assessing. "We could, but we need to get a clearer picture first." His calm was comforting, even in their heightened anxiety. As they moved closer, Sarah caught snippets of conversations. "Call 911. Is anyone hurt? What happened?" With each word, her heart thudded harder. The idea of it was real, the vulnerability of being human laid bare in front of her. "Look." Mark pointed toward the crowd, where someone was waving their arms frantically. "They need a blanket. Let us find something to help." Together, they dashed towards a nearby coffee shop, where the barista stood frozen, eyes wide. "Do you have any blankets? People need help out there," Mark urged, urgency lacing his voice. The barista snapped back to reality and rummaged through a supply closet. Sarah's heart raced as she grabbed a few extra napkins and rushed them back outside to help the injured. "Here, use these to clean up," she shouted, her voice barely breaking through the din all around her. Mark returned, carrying 2 thick blankets that were slightly stained but still warm. He handed one to Sarah, and they both approached the crying child and frantic mother. "What can we do?" Sarah asked, her voice firm yet kind. "Just hold him," the mother said through her tears, shuddering as she held the sobbing boy. Sarah wrapped her arms around the child, his tiny body shaking against her. She felt warmth spreading through her chest, a fierce light igniting as she focused on the task at hand. Mark knelt beside her, his gentle voice calming. "You're safe. We're here." The child's sobs began to quieten under their care, and for a moment, the world outside faded away. In that chaotic environment, amidst uncertainty, they found purpose not only in helping others, but in realizing their connection. This act of compassion drew them closer, healing a wound that runs deeper than their current struggles. Yet, even as the adrenaline subsided and the warmth of their victory settled over them, a gnawing worry resurfaced in the pit of Sarah's stomach. What would it mean for their relationship if they returned to their problems after this? Would this shared moment be enough to keep them afloat? They exchanged a glance, a mixture of gratitude and lingering fear sparking between them. "Let us make a promise," Mark said softly, "that we'll hold on to this moment. No matter what, we'll find a way back to each other." "Yes," Sarah replied, her heart aching with new understanding. But even as she said it, doubt lingered. Could they harness these tiny moments of connection in their everyday struggles? Would they remain when the world around them began to settle back into normalcy? Just then, a shout rang above the crowd, pulling their focus away. "Look out!" Instinctively, they turned, eyes widening at the new chaos brewing. What would come crashing down next, and how would they stay afloat amidst the impending storm? Mark's heart raced at the warning, the urgency palpable as he pulled Sarah closer, instinct guiding their actions. Moments passed in a blur as they turned to face the direction of the shout. Objects flew through the air, a metal sign, tumbling from its mount and narrowly missing a few bystanders who ducked just in time. "What the hell?" Mark gasped, instinctively shielding Sarah with his body as he scanned for more danger. The crowd erupted into a frenzy, panic tightening its grip on the air. People stumbled backward, some falling, but desperately trying to regain their footing. Sarah's breath hitched. The chaotic energy instantaneously transformed her sense of safety into a recognition of vulnerability. "Stay right here," Mark shouted over the din, the weight of responsibility settling hard on his shoulders. Abruptly, he turned and plunged back into the melee, searching for anyone else in need of help. "Mark," she called after him, her voice barely managing to rise above the noise. Fear tightened her throat, but she locked her eyes on him. He was her anchor. With every step he took, distant sirens grew louder, the reality of sirens and chaos looming in the background. Panic had a way of making the mundane feel monumental. She watched as Mark rushed over to assist an elderly woman who had fallen, his face etched with concern. In that instant, her heart swelled with admiration, but distress pulsed within her. How could they make promises amidst this chaos? On her own, Sarah glanced behind her to the small child who had finally calmed down, now resting against her. Looking into his tear-streaked face, she felt hope bloom. They had managed to soothe him in the midst of turmoil. "Just breathe," she murmured to him as she smoothed his hair, wishing she could absorb his pain. Her own emotions swirled, hoping to find solid ground amidst the chaos. Suddenly, another cry erupted nearby. The soft sound of a muffled whimper led her gaze toward an alley, where a teenage girl sat, crumpled against the wall, fear etched across her features. Sarah's heart constricted. The girl's eyes searched for assurance, someone to help carry the weight of the moment. "Hey there," Sarah spoke gently, kneeling beside her. "You're going to be okay. Let us get you up." With a fragile, trembling hand, the girl looked at Sarah with disbelief, as though reality itself had become malleable. But Sarah felt that spark of connection ignite anew. "Can you stand?" she asked. The girl nodded slowly, her lips quivering as she bit back sobs. With Sarah's support, she found her footing, sparking a flicker of resilience that rippled between them. As Mark returned, a look of relief washed over him at the sight of Sarah helping the teen. But the urgent pull of the chaos reminded them it wasn't over yet. "Can you manage?" he asked, his eyes darting toward the fray. "Yeah, I think so," Sarah replied, her voice stronger as the girl leaned against her. In that brief moment of connection, a sense of purpose ignited a flame inside Sarah. She could help. She could be there for others amidst the darkness. And like that, they were no longer just surviving the chaos. They were living within it, part of something larger. But just as they gathered strength, another sound cut through the noise. A loud crash echoed from further down the street. Mark's body tensed, a look of determination igniting in his eyes. "We need to check that out." "Maybe we should help those who are hurt," Sarah said, glancing down the alley, where survivors gathered in frightened clusters. "No," Mark said decisively, his grip tightening on her arm. "We can't ignore this." In unison, they took a step forward, ready to face whatever chaos awaited them. Just as they moved into the unknown, a shocking realization hit her. Was this resurgence of chaos merely the beginning, or was their bond strong enough to withstand the storms that followed? As they ventured further into the frenzy, a new fear gripped her, a fear of what would happen to them next. What else could unravel in a world where every corner turned could lead to loss or deeper connection? And would they come out stronger on the other side, or would the storm tear them apart? As they made their way through the scattered debris and frayed nerves, Mark's grip on Sarah tightened. The world around them morphed into an overwhelming whirlwind. Screams, cries, and the echoes of rage mingled chaotically. With every stride forward, Sarah felt like they were stepping deeper into a tornado, each moment threatening to pull them further apart. "I can't shake the feeling that we shouldn't be here," she admitted quietly, eyes darting around, searching for signs of stability in the chaos. "We can't just stand by," he replied, his voice steady, but she sensed the weight of worry behind it. "We have to find out what's happening." Yet even as they pressed onward, Sarah's heart raced, aware of the unknown danger lurking ahead. She stole a glance back at the alley where they had left the girl. It was a reprieve from the maelstrom out here, tucked away where fear felt less tangible. But there was no time to dwell. The roar of the crowd surged around them. Suddenly, a new wave of panic rippled through the throng. A group of people rushed past, crying out for help. "It's over there," one of them shouted, pointing toward a nearby store where a fire had ignited, flames licking upward like a hungry predator. Mark froze, his brow furrowing. "We need to help them." Yet Sarah hesitated. But what if there's no time to think? People are in danger. He started toward the inferno, determination in every muscle of his body. As they approached the building, the oppressive heat stung Sarah's skin. Thick black smoke billowed out, and the air grew suffocating. Panic clawed at her throat as she watched Mark's silhouette merge with the dark clouds of chaos. It was like watching him walk straight into a monster's lair. "Mark," she called, but her voice was swallowed by the roar of the blaze. A figure lurched forward, bursting out of the smoke with wide eyes and a trail of soot on their face. "Help!" A man gasped, his voice raw and desperate. "There are still people inside." Mark wasted no time. He bolted past the man toward the flames. Sarah felt her heart plummet. "Mark, wait!" she shouted, fear surging through her veins like ice. With each step he took, courage and madness blended. Sarah felt torn between the desire to follow him and the instinct to pull him back. A small glimmer of doubt crept in. Did he truly realize how dangerous this was? But before she could reach him, a fierce cough echoed through the air. Another woman stumbled from the building, but she wasn't alone. "There's someone trapped inside." "We need to." Mark moved again, disappearing once more into the darkness. Time stretched, the seconds feeling like hours, the air thickening with the scent of smoke and desperation. Fear coiled around her heart like a vice. She could lose him here. Just then, a flicker of hope wove through the crowd as others began to gather. They formed a line, passing buckets of water from a nearby fountain, but Sarah felt helpless watching them. She needed to do more. "Someone has to go with him," she shouted, desperation threading through her voice. But who would? The crowd was paralyzed with fear and doubt. She swallowed hard. "I will. I'll go." Determined, she pushed through the anxious figures, her feet suddenly grounded with purpose. "Wait!" A voice called out behind her. "It's too dangerous." But as she reached the entrance, adrenaline fueled her resolve. Mark needed her, and she needed to be strong. The thought of his warmth waiting for her in a world of uncertainty lit a fire within. She stepped into the smoke, aware that everything could change within the next breath. Time was slipping through their fingers, but could she help bring him back, with chaos spinning around them and danger lurking just ahead? Would she be able to save them both, or would this be the moment everything came crashing down? The heat inside the shop was oppressive, like a vice squeezing the very air from Sarah's lungs. She squinted through the rancid smoke, searching for any sign of Mark. Flames danced dangerously close to the ceiling, casting flickering shadows that merged with the chaos swirling around her. "Mark!" she called, her voice thin and laced with panic. She stumbled forward, moving cautiously, her hands outstretched. The thick smoke stung her eyes, and the acrid smell burned her throat. But she couldn't give in to fear. Not now. The crowd outside was just a distant noise, muffled by her own racing heartbeat. The desperate cries for help echoed in her mind, and the thought that she might find someone trapped fueled her. As long as she could save just one life. "Mark!" She strained to listen, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm. Suddenly, she spotted a figure against the backdrop of fiery orange. Mark was there. He had a woman cradled in his arms, guiding her toward the door. Relief flooded through Sarah, momentarily washing away the smoke and fear. She darted forward, the instinct to reach him overpowering her caution. "Sarah!" Mark shouted, his voice cutting through the tumult. His expression was fierce, determined, but his eyes betrayed the exhaustion creeping in. "I'm getting her out. You can't be here." Before she could argue, he steadied the woman on her feet and pushed her toward the exit. "Go. You need to get out." The panic in his voice set off a wave of urgency in Sarah. Her pulse quickened. She needed to help him. "No, I'm not leaving you," she yelled, the heat twisting her words. He turned back, eyes blazing. "Please." "I can't." With a sudden crash, a shelf near them collapsed, sending debris raining down. The explosion of sound broke the air like a gunshot, sending her heart racing. Mark spun around, concern etched on his face. He reached for her, pulling her closer. "We have to move. Now." Another wave of heat washed over them, and Sarah's survival instincts kicked in hard. She felt a flicker of despair as the flames clawed higher, ready to engulf everything. Yet, she wouldn't let fear immobilize her. She stepped closer. "Together," she insisted, her voice trembling but firm. They'd faced challenges before, and this was just another they needed to tackle as a team. Mark nodded, the tension in his shoulders loosening slightly. He took her hand, the grip strong against the chaos around them. They pushed deeper into the store, hands reaching for one another through the haze. "Is anyone else here?" she shouted, desperation creeping into her voice. "Just the back room," a voice cried from the shadows. It was another survivor, a young man coughing violently. "Help! There's someone trapped." Without hesitation, Mark turned toward the sound. His grit was palpable, igniting a surge of bravery in Sarah. "Let us go." They dashed down a narrow corridor, the heat intensifying. Time felt warped in here. Every second stretched and snapped like a dragging rubber band. When they reached the back room, the sight met them like a punch. An elderly woman lay on the ground, unable to move, panic glazing her eyes. "Help me," she gasped, her voice weak. Mark rushed to her, adrenaline fueling each action. "Stay calm, we'll get you out." Sarah knelt to help, pulling the woman gently toward them, but the world outside still roared. Flames loomed closer, urgency driving each decision. With their strength combined, they managed to lift the woman between them. Just as they started to turn back, a fresh wave of smoke enveloped their path. "Mark, the fire! It's blocking our way. Keep moving. We have to push through," he shouted, determination heavy in his tone. But as they stumbled forward, a sudden crack echoed above. A beam was giving way. She had only a moment to react. Would they make it, or had they set themselves on a path toward inevitable disaster? In one heartbeat, everything hung in the balance: their future, their hope, all amplified by the chaos surrounding them. Would they emerge from the flames together or find themselves separated by fate once again? That question hung heavy in the air as they forged ahead, the world closing in around them. As the flames roared and the heat consumed the space, Sarah felt adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Hold on," she urged, her heart racing as she and Mark pulled the elderly woman closer. The world outside faded, overtaken by the heat and chaos within. With every step they took, the air felt thicker, more suffocating. The young man who had called for help was right behind them, fear filling his eyes. "This way." Mark guided them, pushing through the smoke that wrapped around them like a suffocating blanket. It felt almost surreal, the reality of their struggle set against the backdrop of a fierce fire, the heat pushing them forward with an urgency they couldn't ignore. Just then, a loud crash echoed, causing them to halt. A burning beam, weakened by the flames, fell in front of them, a desperate reminder of the danger they faced. "We have to find another way," Mark shouted, panic evident. As they retreated, Sarah felt the elderly woman tremble under the strain of uncertainty. "You're safe with us," she assured, her voice steady even as her heart raced. Behind her, Mark scanned their surroundings, his brows furrowed in determination. "Follow me," he urged, his tone firm. In that moment, Sarah saw more than the man who had made mistakes. She saw a warrior willing to fight for what mattered most. It ignited a hope within her, a belief that they could overcome this together. The trio started moving through the clutter, searching for an exit. "There." Sarah pointed towards a side door, half obscured by fallen shelves. They rushed toward it, hope igniting anew. Mark pushed through the door, but it didn't open easily. It stuck. He grunted, desperation inching into his voice. Sarah joined him, her heart pounding in rhythm with their attempts to force it open. "Push," she urged. They strained against the barrier, and with one final effort, the door creaked, swinging open to reveal the cool night air outside. Relief flooded over them, but time was still of the essence. The flames crept forward like hungry wolves. They stumbled into the open air, gasping in relief as they emerged from the engulfing darkness. The crowds erupted with cheers, panic turning to gratitude as Sarah ushered the elderly woman to safety. But the moment of victory was short-lived, for as they turned back, the roof behind them gave way with a deafening roar, sending plumes of smoke spiraling toward the sky. "Mark!" Sarah screamed, panic igniting within her again as dust and debris cascaded down. He turned, catching her gaze, and in that instant, she saw all that was unspoken, a realization of how fragile life could be, threaded together by a commitment to be better. As emergency responders flooded the scene, Mark gripped her hand tightly, fear pouring out alongside admiration. "We did it," he murmured, his voice breathless with exhaustion. "We saved them." Tears of relief streamed down Sarah's face as their hands intertwined. They were battered, exhausted, but they had survived. They had emerged from the twisted chaos together, and for the first time in months, hope glimmered amidst the wreckage. As they stepped back, the enormity of the moment settled over them. Mark looked at Sarah, vulnerability and gratitude shining in his eyes. "I don't know what the future holds," he confessed, "but I know I'll fight for us, for everything we have." Sarah smiled through her tears, a radiant warmth spreading through her chest. "And I will too," she said, realizing that despite the turmoil, their journey had only just begun. Every trial had brought them here, a crossroads of hope and chance. They were more than just survivors, they were partners. In the calm following the storm, they turned back to the scene, watching as others rushed to help those still in need. There was beauty in the chaos, love binding them even tighter. They had faced a literal fire, but even more, they had faced their fears and vulnerabilities. And now, as their community rallied around them, they could rebuild not only their lives, but the very foundation of their family. Together, Sarah whispered, their fingers still intertwined, a testament to the promise they'd made to one another. Together, Mark echoed, his resolve strengthening. This was not the end, but the beginning of something new, where lessons would be learned and trust would be rebuilt, brick by brick. As they embraced tightly, the chaos subsided around them, the warmth of the community igniting a spark of resilience. They faced another day, uncertain yet ready, knowing they would weather whatever came next as long as they stood united. And now, my friends, it's time for you to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss our next exclusive stories that will uplift and inspire you. Leave a like now if you felt the emotions in this ending. It really helps the algorithm and makes a difference every day. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this transformation. I want to hear from you, and don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this journey. True fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.